Reality, I don't like word endurance per se. Let's operate today work capacity. So I like work capacity because it's more broader explanation of what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve work capacity of the athlete, right? So right today, previous presentation, we were talking about primary. When we talk about endurance, when we talk about work capacity, we kind of trying to concentrate primary on the cardiac, pulmonary, and the muscle, which is justifiable so, but it's much more than that always, right? So if we compare all the athletes, regardless of sport, athletes who achieve highest results, we'll find out that they have very similar trends when we talk about their biological adaptations or development. Some of them have them genetically, some of them obtained through training. In particular, we find out that athletes that can display their skill longer, can perform on the highest level of sport with great success, very stable, have hyperplasia of endocrine cells, and higher concentration of steroidal hormones in the blood cell. So, but we already knew that, right? So we have sport-specific cardiac hypertrophy and increase of cardiac output in these athletes. We have hyperplasia of mitochondria in the heart and diaphragm, and as well in slow and fast twitch fibers. So of course there is other adaptations. So there is two types of hypertrophies, concentric and eccentric. So for endurance events, of course we want to stretch the myofibers of the heart and then elongate the heart as much as possible, right? So we increase cardiac output, stroke volume. Let's say take marathon runner, take long distance runners if you have to work. So that type of adaptation can be achieved only with type of activity that have full diastole effect. As a hanging heart, as a function, it's like a balloon. So what you need to do, you need to work somewhere very close to their maximum cardiac output and full diastole effect. Having the full diastole effect, having that time for blood to enter the blood and stretch it to the maximum capacity, eventually will keep pulling and stretching the myofibers of the heart longer and longer and longer. So those normal activities with very low heart rates between 120, 140 beats per minute, right? So of course the opposite side of adaptation when we talk about cardiac hypertrophy would be power lifter who actually does just couple lifts, right? So they don't need necessarily huge heart, even it can be argued, but normally what we see in them, significant thickening of the walls of the myocardium. It's also hypertrophy. It's a different type of hypertrophy that's not necessarily leading to enlargement of the left ventricle. There is no different reason for that. And there is multiple sports in between that need two types of hypertrophies. Both the enlargement, elongation of the myofibers, but also the processes of hyperplasia and thickening. So, well, first of all, let's talk about slow twitch fibers. It's already purely oxidative, correct? So the only way we can increase number of mitochondria is slow twitch fiber. But first, inducing hyperplasia of muscle fibers and slow twitch fiber. Basically what we need to create a larger surface area for mitochondria to occur, right? So here's the question, how do we achieve that? So we know to achieve the processes of hyperplasia, we need first hypoxia, right? We need presence of hydrogen ions, we need presence of lactate. How do we do that in the slow twitch fiber? It's purely oxidative. So there is way, actually bodybuilders opened the door to that field many years ago. And the field is inducing through certain type of activity, which we will discuss, inducing edema effect in the cell. So a cell swells, pinches the capillaries, and stop the blood flow to the working muscle. So no blood flow means no oxygen. So we're creating these conditions by definition. So the best exercises that have been at least presented for this reason, statodynamic exercises. So let's discuss at least. It doesn't matter what exercise it is. As I said, we can, as long as the rules apply, they can be any type of activity. But easy to show would be squat. Now, the type of activity that will lead to hyperplasia and slow twitch fibers would be the type of activity that limits the blood flow to the muscle, as we discussed before. So normally, it's activity that doesn't have stop in different phases. So your joints never lock, and the actual range of motion pretty low. So maybe half squat, and it has to be produced slow, because if you increase the intensity of the movement, you will increase involvement of fast twitch fibers. One, if you increase the weight, you also will start recruiting fast twitch fibers as well, and you want to avoid that. So normally for this type of activity, the weight that have been studied is between 30 and 60% of one rep max. So you say, hey, 30%, that's pretty easy. Well, yes, it is. But if you actually do it in this sequence, as I will show, it can lead to complete failure of the muscle, because here actually the activity type needs to be to full failure. So the activity would be pretty simple. The goal is 40 seconds non-stop movement without stop at any point, and 40 seconds rest. And then we can repeat it. So it would be like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on. 40 seconds, approximately, if the time is right, in 40 seconds you will do approximately 8 repetitions. And then you have 40 seconds rest. So the weight has to be selected, and there is big sequence between 30 and 60%. So it has to be selected, and that will keep you exactly in that level. And each last repetition has to be pretty much painful to the failure.